Barca and Napoli pay tribute to Maradona. Pep won't splash the cash. Jimenez recovers, a transfer roundup, plus Emoji Mondays, all coming up on today's OneFootball Daily News. As I'm your host, Angelina Kelly, let's get into it. It has been such a busy weekend of football, and amongst all of the results, we saw some really touching tributes from Barcelona and Napoli to Diego Maradona, who of course passed away last week. Barcelona put on a brilliant display over the weekend as they beat Osasuna 4-0, and of course it was Lionel Messi's goal, the final goal of the game, that was the most important, as he hit the ball into the top corner and the keeper was 100% not saving that one. The Argentine lifted his shirt to reveal a number 10 all-boys shirt underneath, where of course Messi began his youth career and where Maradona spent a period of time playing towards the end of his career. The Catalan side also paid homage to Diego Maradona, who of course played for the club back in the 1980s, by hanging a framed signed shirt of his above the presidential box, and the team of course held a 1-minute silence before kickoff with an old number 10 Barcelona jersey on the pitch. Meanwhile in Italy, Napoli played in Argentina-style shirts as they beat Roma 4-0. It was Lorenzo Insigne who put Napoli ahead, and he celebrated by running halfway across the pitch and collecting a shirt and kissing it that had Maradona's name on it. Before kickoff, there was a minute silence for Maradona, who of course spent 7 seasons at the club, and in the 10th minute of the game, everything was halted as they had a round of applause. It was such a touching sight to see not only Barcelona and Napoli, but clubs all over the world pay tribute to Maradona, and it shows what an amazing, influential player in the game he truly was and always will be. Next up, Manchester City. Now, they did have a great 5-0 win against Burnley over the weekend, but it's safe to say that it has been a rocky start to the season. But with the January transfer window just around the corner, Pep Guardiola has come out saying that the club will categorically not be signing any players. Now, for some people, this may be a little bit of a shock, as Manchester City are currently in 10th place after 9 games in the Premier League. Yes, they have got to the last 16 in the Champions League, but as I said before, it has been a little bit of an unsteady start for Guardiola and his team. But on the other hand, the fact that they spent over £120 million on Ruben Diaz, Nathan Ake and Ferran Torres, it kind of makes sense that they won't be spending any more money just yet. Now, do not worry, because this does not mean that the Messi transfer is completely out of the window. That wouldn't be until the summer anyway. But even though rumours are still circulating, it seems like that transfer is getting even further out of sight as time goes on. Now, like I say, people will be questioning why they're not signing anybody, especially when you think of the fact that Sergio Aguero, Gabriel Jesus, they did have some injury worries at the beginning of the season. Now they do seem to be okay, but what happens if something like that repeats itself? Now, defensively, I think that they're pretty solid now with the signings that they've made, and also the resurrection of John Stones recently. And this has been really interesting because it seems to be Pep Guardiola's ethos at the moment that if you're playing well, you are going to start. Do not take anything for granted, City players, because it seems like Guardiola has come out saying that he's only judging people on their current form. He doesn't want his players to think that a place in the starting 11 is just a given. He believes that he has an absolutely fantastic team and he definitely doesn't need to spend. Like I say, I can kind of agree with that, but we need to see a little bit more from them. Hopefully, with the 5-0 win over Burnley, they will gather a little bit of momentum and climb back up to the top of that Premier League table. But if it gets to Christmas and they're still in the same position, surely maybe Guardiola will change his mind. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens with this one. Guardiola has said that his team can fight for all the titles. I think that's a bit of a reach. I don't think they'll be winning every title, but it is really great to see that he's so confident in his team, and we will have to see how this one plays out and if they do end up making any signings in January. Now, next up, Raul Jiménez. Reports are coming out that he is conscious and speaking after that awful clash of heads between him and David Luiz as Arsenal played Wolves at the weekend. Despite the game being a great, important win for Wolves, it was completely dominated by the awful injury that saw them stop play for 10 minutes and, of course, saw Raul Jiménez being stretchered off the pitch. Now, David Luiz did just have a bandage on his head and he stayed on and was subbed at half-time, but many were actually a little bit concerned as to why he stayed on the pitch, but Arsenal have come out and said that they did stick to protocol. The injury and the distressing scenes from the weekend has raised a lot more conversations about concussion, and former England striker Alan Shearer has come out discussing the topic. Now, he has done a documentary on dementia and players that get concussed and head injuries and how this could maybe have a little bit of a relation, and he has come out saying that something needs to change in football as soon as possible. Now, next season, it's looking like the Premier League will be trialling a concussion substitute situation where if something happens like last night, they would then be able to bring a sub on. But players and people like Alan Shearer are coming out and saying that they shouldn't be trialled, it needs to just be brought in as soon as possible. And with injuries like last night, it just means that surely this is going to be a little bit of a wake-up call for footballing authorities to do the right thing. And now we have our transfer roundup. This is where I take a look at some of the other news and transfers going on in the footballing world. And first up, Newcastle United. They have had 2 more positive COVID tests as they await to see if this is going to affect the team, if more players are going to become infected. Argentina striker Lautaro Martinez said that he is ready to leave Inter Milan and has put Jorge Mendes in charge of finding him a new club. Sunderland are in search of a new manager after Phil Parkinson has been sacked from the job after only just about a year at the club. And finally, Felipe Coutinho. Although there have been rumours that he is going to be leaving the new camp, his agent has come out and said that he is not going anywhere. And now we have Friday Field, so let's take a look at some of your predictions that you put in the comments section on Friday's video. First up, Beyond Added Time, who predicted that Bayern would get a 3-1 win over Stuttgart. Zaim Mughal was one of the only people to predict that Chelsea and Spurs would end in a 0-0 draw. And finally, Labib Hassan predicted that Real Sociedad and Villarreal would end in a 1-1 draw. And lastly, we have Emoji Mondays. This is where we shove a few emojis on top of some of the action that took place over the weekend. So, best player, this for me, despite what's going on off the pitch, it has to go to Edinson Cavani. Now, Manchester United were trailing 2-0 when he came on the pitch and he managed to get 2 goals and an assist. It was an amazing performance from him and he really managed to completely rally the team and switch things completely on their head. And he is just proof of why older strikers that maybe some people think have lost their legs a little bit, it's why they are still such worthy, decent players in the game, because they have the ability to influence games with such a massive impact like Cavani did for Manchester United. Worst player, for me, this has to go to Bailey Peacock Farrell, Burnley's goalkeeper, as they lost 5-0 to Manchester City. Now, of course, it wasn't all his fault. 100% not saying it was all his fault, but it was really uncomfortable viewing. You know, this is his debut in the Premier League. He's trying to prove that he is just as good as Nick Pope, which I think he definitely did not prove, as he, the first goalkeeper for Burnley, is out with an injury. And of course, Burnley and Manchester City, they are on completely different levels, let's be honest, but to see 5 goals go into the back of the net the way they did, it was not a great game for him. And the best result for me was Con's 2-1 victory over Dortmund. Everyone expected Dortmund to really win this game like 5-6-0, some of the predictions that I saw in the comment section, but it was a great way for them to lift spirits. They'd had an 18 winless run and they finally put an end to that and managed to get their first win of the season, so big congratulations to them. So that is everything for today's OneFootball Daily News. Don't forget to check out all the other videos we have got here at OneFootball, and until next time, I will see you guys later.